Well, good evening. We want to welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. And we're so excited to be sharing with you guys on this lovely evening. I tell you, it's just been such a wonderful day, and we wanted to close this day out just with a bang with In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. And so we're just going to jump right into it. Listen, before we do that, though, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, some topics that you want us to discuss, you can reach us at weareablendedfamily@gmail.com. That's weareablendedfamily@gmail.com. I'm telling you, it's just been an awesome journey. Last week, we celebrated 1 year, our 1 year anniversary with you guys. And so it's just been super exciting for all that has been accomplished and revealed throughout this year. And so we just love you guys. We thank you for your support. Yeah. We thank you for just continuing just being with us, pushing us on, encouraging us on, watching us do what God has commissioned us to do, and that's to build a blended family. And so we just want to go ahead right into some statistics, and then we're going to go into tonight's broadcast.
Marriage education is effective in promoting marital quality and stability. 40% of married couples with children in the United States are blended families. 46% of remarried couples, a marriage for one or both partners, already have a child under 18 living in the home. 38% of couples who marry for the first time already have a child, biological or stepchild.
And so the statistics are clear. Marriage education is effective in promoting marital quality and stability. So if you want to have a stable marriage, if you want to have a quality marriage, then you need to educate yourself. That's not only for the blended family or the traditional family, but for both. Mm-hmm. There's some things that you just don't know starting off. There's some things that you're clueless to starting off, and you're going to need to educate yourself. It's no different than you doing your field of profession. If you want to be great at your profession, you educate yourself. There are things, there are tools that are out there to assist you in being the best barber, being the best accountant, being the best judge, being the best police officer. I'm just skipping all over the place because I don't want to just make it relative to one type of profession. But whatever your profession is, if you want to be the best, then you educate yourself and you fill yourself in on what's needed to be the best. And so marriage education is effective in promoting marital quality and stability. Then the second one is 40% of married couples with children, or i.e. families in the United States, are blended families. And that statistic is a little old. It's about a year old. So it has increased since then, as we all know. And so that lets you know the need for In the Blender. There's a need for what we do and what we share. It is not something that we just thought about, it'd be a good idea to come on Facebook and be with you guys. But no, there's an awesome need in the land for insight, for wisdom, for knowledge and understanding as it relates to the blended family. And so that's what we love and enjoy doing for you guys. And then 40% of remarried couples, 46% of remarried couples, a marriage for one or both partners, already have a child under 18 living in the home. And so that was us. We had 3 children under 18 living in the home. Yep. 38% of couples who married for the first time already have a child, either biological or stepchild. And we don't say step, we say blended, or as some people may say bonus. Yeah. And so so you see the need for us to get up here every Tuesday and share with you guys practical insights and steps to increase your life, to take your blended family to that next level, that next dimension, and also to be a light to others so that they too may know how they can live on top as it relates to the blended family. Mm-hmm. And so tonight we're just going to talk about some wisdom tips as to having a successful blended family. And it's centered around ingredients. And we talk about blender, we talk about the blended family. Mm-hmm. And so it's just like, because both of us, we're health conscious, and we're really into making our bodies the temples that they were intended to be. And so one of the things that we do on a regular basis is we blend. We do shakes, we do protein shakes, we do different things of that nature. But one thing about that blender, if you want to have a great mix, then you got to have the right ingredients. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we do on every Tuesday. We make sure that we give you guys the right ingredients that you can now receive from that drink, and they can build your body up to where you want it to. You have to make sure that you're not putting too much sugar in. One of the things that we make sure is that, our ingredients aren't filled with a bunch of sugar. And so, because sugar turns into fat, and fat turns into more fat. And so you don't want to add things, you don't want to add ingredients into your blended family that's going to take it a direction that you really don't want it to go into.
Right.
It might seem like it's good, just like you might have that sugary drink, but then you start looking at your waist, and instead of your waist going in, it start expanding. Well, we found out that's what happens a lot of times, and it happened to us early on in the blended family. There were some things that we were consuming that instead of building and shrinking and making our family dynamic what we wanted it to be, it was taking us the opposite direction. And man, after a while, it didn't look too good. You know how it is when you're a teenager or you're in your early 20s and you might have that physique that's just on point, and you just looking like that man or that woman, and then by the time you get into your 30s, you don't look quite the same. It's almost like a funny story. I remember my 10-year high school reunion. And when I went to the high school reunion, my wife, she just thought I was tripping, because some of the folks that had those fit bodies, those bodies weren't quite as fit. You know what I'm talking about. You know those girls that had the 36, the 24, and the other 36 or whatever it is. Well, and then 10 years later, they had 46 and 38 and some other numbers. And so it's the same thing. It's the same thing. And so we want to make sure that you guys are getting the right ingredients, the right nutrients to build this body, man, because it's important. Mm-hmm. It's important because you don't know how much people are watching you. And unfortunately, we live in a sight-conscious society. And what I mean by that is perception is reality. Right. And what people see, that's what they go off of. And so you want to make sure that you're filling this temple up, this blended family temple up with the right ingredients. So when people see you, they can see the best.
Right.
It's time out for presenting ourselves where we're looking defeated. It's time out for presenting ourselves where people don't see any victory, where they don't see any overcoming in your life. And so that's what this In the Blender is all about. People that have gotten to this point, they now become one, but they got a whole lot of different dynamics that they're bringing together, and they want to be successful in it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we want to let you guys know that add the ingredients and mix slowly and carefully. Now, in this blender, in this blended family, when you're adding ingredients, you're going to have to add those things slowly and carefully. You don't want to just throw a bunch of things into this and think you're going to get the best out of this relationship, because that's not what's going to happen. You're going to have to add things slowly. There were some things that early on, I wanted to add a lot of stuff at the same time. And I found out that I was adding too much too quickly. And what happened, consequently, I was choking my family. I was choking the life out of them because I didn't give them an opportunity to process each and every ingredient as we went along. Mm-hmm. There's some things as it relates to the blended family that you're going to have to add in slowly, because there's a processing time that goes along with adding.
And one of the big things was discipline.
You talking?
Yeah, no, you're looking at me.
No, I was going with you. I was trying to go with you.
You know, when you were talking about adding the ingredient, one of those things was like discipline.
Yes.
That's one of the things that shouldn't have been thrown into the blender right away, or something that should have been discussed before you put it in there. You know, because when you came in, it was like you wanted to be the disciplinarian at that particular time, and that was one of the ingredients that could have or should have waited a little while.
Yeah, because I was the Hinnick. I was the Hinnick, and many of you guys know what the Hinnick is, but we're not going to discuss that. But that's who I thought I was. And so, again, when it came down to the discipline, man, I was on top of all of that, and I didn't even give much thought to how it was going to be done, or when it was going to be done, or why it was even going to be done. It was just, it needed to be done. And so, had I taken the time to sit down with my family and add that ingredient slowly, a lot of things that we went through early on, we wouldn't have went through, because there would have been a lot of understanding, and we all would have been on the same page as it relates to that.
Right.
And so make sure that when you add the ingredients, that you add them, that you mix them slowly and carefully. Get to know each person in the family individually instead of all at the same time. And that's very important, because you got a lot of different personalities. You got everybody does things differently. They think differently. And so you want to make sure that you get to know, especially when you coming in. For me, my wife already had the girls. And so they were already in the home. And so I needed to get to know each and every individual individually.
Right.
I needed to take the time to get to know them personally by themselves, not just together, because it's different when you're together than it is when you're apart. And so I knew them together, but I didn't know them apart.
Right.
And so I had to later on learn them individually.
Right.
And once I begin to learn them, then I begin to understand how I can deal with one way and deal with the other another way.
Right.
Because one thing about this blended family dynamic, you can't deal with everybody the same way.
Right.
You can't do it. I mean, one of my girls I could talk to this way.
Right.
One I could talk to that way. The other I could talk to another way. But I found out early on that I couldn't talk to all three of them the same way.
Right.
Because they were just that different. They saw things differently. They thought differently. They responded differently. And they were just different individuals. And so I had to learn that. And so you want to make sure that you get to know each person in the family individually instead of all at the same time.
And want to get to know them.
And yes, want to. Because we found out that a lot of people, especially in this blended family dynamic, they don't want to get to know. I wanted to know my girls.
Right.
It was important for me to know them. It was important for me to understand them. And it was important for them. It was important for me that they knew me. It was important for me that they understood me. Not just me understanding them, or not just them understanding me, but it had to be mutual.
Right.
It was important that we had a mutual understanding and a mutual knowledge of each other in order for that thing to be successful. Because one thing about me is I hate losing. I hate to be, me and defeat don't go together.
Right.
And so it's very, very important that that's done and that is exhibited. And then know that not knowing this could be disastrous. Man, I'm going to tell you something. That first year or two, it could have been disastrous. It really could have been. There were some things that we even went through. And again, I think 2018 is when we're going to share some of this stuff with you guys. But it was some things we went through that from the outside looking in, it was disastrous. I mean, it was like, wow, they made it. They made it through that. They overcame that. Because many people would have gave up. Many people would have walked in through in the towel, walked away. And let me be clear on that. There was no infidelity, there was no abuse, no anything like that. But there were some things done that just for a lack of wisdom and a lack of understanding, it was almost disastrous as related to our family dynamic. And so everyone has their own way of relating and handling things. Knowing this, not knowing this could be disastrous. Everybody has their own way. Hey, Saeed. Hey, Kana. How you guys doing there? Couples should make priority time for each other. This is important because, especially as relates to bringing up children and raising children, you got to take time to get to know each other. Many times, especially with the traditional family, and that's a reason why, one of the reasons why a lot of people are in blended families, because they never took the time to learn their first spouse. They never took the time to understand that first individual that they said, I do or I will too. And so consequently, you were in a relationship, but you didn't know that person. And so we understand that if you do the same thing, expecting a different result, that's called insanity. And so it's crazy for you to now be in a blended family doing the same disastrous stuff that you did previously. And so couples, make priority time for each other. You know, it's one, like yesterday we made sure that, you know, we spent some time with each other because we're both busy. And, you know, my wife, she's super busy doing her thing. I'm busy doing mine. And so we have to make sure that we make time for each other. And so we went to go see Black Panther on yesterday and enjoyed each other. And so, but we make sure that we make each other a priority. Even when we're not doing something, sometimes I'll just say, listen, I'm just going to cut work short. I'm going to come home and we just going to chill. I don't care if we watching TV. I don't care if we Netflixing and chilling. I don't care what it is we're doing. As long as we spending time with each other, that's what's important. Because when you got children, when you got grandchildren, when you got all these different things going on, and you don't make time for each other, you get lost. And so couples should make priority time for each other by either making regular dates. We talked about the dates.
Yep.
Taking trips taking trips without the children. And let me tell you something. There's nothing wrong with spending time with each other without the children.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's one of the most joyous things you can have. It's not saying that it's not joyous having time with the children, but having that one-on-one me time is you can't compare it. And so you want to make sure that you're spending that time with each other, like I said, whether it's on date nights or taking a trip. And guess what? Your trip can be down to the mall. It don't have to be a long place.
In the car, ride around.
It could be. We used to do that all the time. All the time. We would just
ride for hours. Just
hours. It was something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We would get in the car. I mean, ride for like 5 or 6 hours. Just go look at communities. Go look at different places. We'll go out of state. Come right back. I mean, we would just do things just so we can spend time with each other. Time away from all distractions. Anything that can pull from us spending time with each other, we would just get away. And so because we did that on a regular, consistent basis, it was like, man, we know each other so well, and we learned each other so well. It's like we were at a point where we could really almost finish each other's sentences because we pretty much knew what each other was thinking. But that was a product of spending that time with each other, that individual time, away from the kids, away from the businesses and the jobs, and making sure that we just was on point with each other.
Yeah, and you gotta want to spend time with your spouse.
Yes.
There's some people just like to do individual stuff, which is not
how.
Cool. Yeah.
No, I don't know. Let me tell you guys something. 20 years, March 14th. I still love spending time with my wife. I still love being with my wife. I still love being around my wife. I don't care if we're not doing anything. You know what I'm saying? I just love just that time with her. It's so important to me, especially understanding that a lot of times it's important to do stuff that you didn't see. For me, I made priorities on things that I didn't necessarily see growing up. Now, let me be clear on that. I always saw my father every single day. I saw my parents together every single day. Right. But there were things that I wanted to see that I didn't see, that I made a priority for me in my life that I would do. Because I didn't just want what they had, I wanted better. Now, my parents been married, 46 years.
Right.
Now I want double. I want double that. You understand what I'm saying? So in order to get that double, I have to do above and beyond what they did to get where they at. And so you have to make sure that you're spending that time with each other, that one-on-one quality time. Anticipate parenting changes and decisions.
Did you finish that?
Let me go back. Oh, pick me up, baby.
On the flip side of that, you have to make sure that you prioritize the children as well.
On the flip side, yeah, you got to make sure that you prioritize the children, and that's what that is important.
Yeah, you can't leave them out either.
No. Even with the girls, you know what I'm saying? I'll call them up. They so busy sometimes. They just too busy for me. But I want to go on. I want to date them. Hey, what y'all doing for lunch? Because they work downtown. Hey, what y'all doing? I'm downtown. Let's go have lunch. And so, but that's important. Because you prioritize them, you still let them know how important they are.
Right.
They're grown now, but they still need to know how important they are. Not just because you're out the house and now you may have your own family or whatever, and now you're not as important as you was when you didn't have any of that. No, you're even more important because there's some things as a family that we got to pass on to the next generation.
Right.
To make sure that they fulfill in every area of their lives and to make sure that they don't repeat some of the things that we've done as mistakes and errors.
Right.
And so make sure that on the flip side that you prioritize the children as well. And let me tell you something, that's beneficial for you. Mm-hmm. If you want to cut down on the bickering, if you want to cut down on the arguing, on the confusion and misunderstandings, then you start spending time with those children individually. You start dating those children. I remember our baby girl, well, she's not a baby anymore, but our youngest daughter, when she was the last one in the house, man, I wanted to spend every single day with her. I think she got tired of me. I wanted to spend every single day. I mean, I did. It was important to me because I didn't spend as much time with my first daughter. I didn't spend as much time with my second daughter. But my third one, I made sure that I wasn't going to make that same mistake.
Right.
I made sure that she was going to get my undivided attention. And so, man, that was my ride or die. That was my prayer partner. Everything that I needed, that she was the one. And so, but it was important because even to this day, although we're miles away from each other, you know what I'm saying? But there's a bond that we developed early on,
right? That
nobody can change that. Even if we don't talk as much, we don't spend as much time with each other. It's been already settled, etched in stone, who we are to each other.
Right.
And so matter of fact, we just had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, just reinforcing that with each other, reconfirming that with each other, letting each other know, you know, how much we mean to each other, how much we love each other. And so that's important because this will foster an atmosphere of inclusion instead of seclusion.
Right.
You want to make sure that you foster an atmosphere of inclusion. Mm-hmm. You don't want anybody in this blended family dynamic to feel like they're not a part of this.
Right.
That is so important. It's important to the growth. It's important to the maturation of this blended family dynamic that everybody knows that they are as equally valued as the next individual.
Yep. Everybody
knows that. And so I make that clear, even down to the grandkids. Everybody know everybody's equal. Although Deja got him just a little bit, because that was my baby. That was my firstborn.
Hey, Najee. And she just tuned in.
Najee, no. But watch this, though. But even like with Najee was special. Because Najee was the one that always wanted to get on my shoulders.
Yeah.
She was the one that always, it was so funny because she just loved my bald head.
When she was a baby.
When she was a baby, she used to love my bald head. She used to just get on my shoulders and rub my head and kiss my head.
Najee, you remember that?
Yeah, you need to remember that. And so, you know, it's so funny, you know. But again, that's having an individual relationship with every person.
Yeah.
And I made sure that I developed an individual relationship with each one of them, even down to the grandkids. I have an individual relationship with a separate personal relationship with each other. And so you want to make sure that. Anticipate parenting decisions and changes. Read that, sweetie.
It is important to discuss the role of the new parent in raising their new spouse's children, as well as changes in household rules that may have to be made.
Stop there. It's important. It's important to discuss the role of the new parent. We didn't discuss that role, guys. I wish we would have discussed that role. We didn't. Matter of fact, we didn't have anybody to discuss that role with. We went in this thing with blinders on. I mean, really trial and error, knocking our heads up against the wall, trying to figure out some things. But you want to make sure that you discuss changes in household rules that may have to be made.
Right.
We didn't discuss that. There were things that my wife did on a consistent basis with the girls, and it was a rule for them. It was how they operated. It was how they flowed. It was how they functioned. It was how they related with each other. And I came in
and broke our rules.
And broke their rules. I mean, I destroyed their rules. It wasn't no breaking in their rules. I destroyed their rules. And consequently, I had a lot of kickback, man. There were a lot of things that could have been easy or should have been easy early on that was hard because we didn't discuss, or I didn't take the time to discuss changes.
Right.
I just wanted to institute changes because I'm an alpha. I like things my way. My way, my time, when I want it, how I want it. And so I was clueless that I had some alpha females that like things the way they like it, how they want it. And they weren't having me coming in with my drill sergeant self, barking out orders, like a staff sergeant.
Hold up, that ain't gonna bark up.
Exactly. like I'm Gunny Caldwell.
Like,
exactly.
Whoa.
And so
where did you come from?
Yeah, it felt like that, didn't it? It really did.
Lord.
And so it's important, man. Understand. You gotta understand this, guys. It's important to discuss the role of the new parent. I was the new parent.
Yeah.
So it's important to discuss that role.
You came in our space.
Yes. And understand that children are likely to respond differently after blended because the blended parent has now assumed an official parental role. Right. They respond differently. My girls, they love their father. I mean, they love this. They love this young man. They idoled him. I mean, he could do no wrong. Yeah. And so I'm coming in with my new parental role, and they like, we already got a daddy. like, who are you? God not dead, he's still alive. And so, it's important to understand that. And so you got to make sure that you know that children are likely to respond differently. Yeah. They might don't respond quite the way you think they're going to respond early on, especially if they're a little older. Now, if they're young, like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, they adapt a little easier. But we had teenagers and preteens.
10, 13, 16.
Exactly. And so they were pretty much set in their perceptions or ideals of parenting. Right. And so me coming in, it was interesting. And so we sharing this with you guys because you need to understand that they're likely to respond differently after blending because a blended parent has now assumed an official parental role. Yeah. I assumed an official parental role. Oh my goodness, we out of time.
Yep, 7:59.
And so we're going to pick this back up because we got a lot more. We out of time, but we're not out of message. And
they do have a voice and an opinion. That's right,
yes,
Mom.
They do have a voice and an opinion.
And it needs to be heard.
And I didn't know that I knew they had a voice, but I didn't know they had an opinion. But I found out soon that they had an opinion. So, again, we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
To In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. You guys are awesome. Yes. You rock. We do this for you because we want to see you blessing on top. Listen, if you have something you want us to touch on as it relates to what we've just discussed on tonight, How do they reach us?
Send us an email at weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
Give that to them one more time.
weareablendedfamily@gmail.com.
And like we always do, we want to give our final thought.
Always remember that every family is different and may have different challenges. So every blended family challenge should be addressed individually depending upon the challenge.
The personalities are different, so you want to use measures that work for you.
One of the main things you should always do is keep the lines of communication open in the blended family.
Parents should always show unity in front of the children, even if they secretly don't agree.
Showing that you are unified diffuses the enemy's attacks in the blended family.
Lastly, you want to always demonstrate patience.
Having patience to work through the difficult challenges in the blended family will bring about a happy blended family.
And remember, you became a blended family because you chose to. Now choose to be successful. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Until
See you
next
week.
week. Bye-bye.